Welcome Photo 130 students. Again, this is a recap of week 3. It's been a pretty quiet week for us in the online selection since you guys are working on the projects that are due this Sunday evening for the shutter speed project. If you've been on D2L at all so far, you see that there's some information out in the news section talking about the upcoming critique and the expectations for that, as well as a reminder area for the projects that you're submitting. That again, they're shot in camera raw. Your file names are going to be slightly different. It's either going to be a CR2, NEF, or for the offshoots, you're going to have a different file type. It will not be a JPEG, which is JPG as the suffix, or a TIFF image. You'll have those opened and converted and saved into a .psd file. Again, that's Photoshop. That is the only file type you'll be using for that. So you'll have 2 images or 2 files per completed image. So a total of 4 files you'll be uploading. You'll be wanting to double check that they were shot on manual only, not on one of the automatic presets. Uploaded to the correct group only. When you go into the upload process on Widen, and if you have forgotten how to do that, review the video on that process and upload that into your group only. And if we're looking up at the top of D2L or Learn It Start, we'll see that you guys are section 930C. And again, a really big reminder that your files must be named correctly according to the project sheet. So it's last name, first name, underscore, and then the project name. You'll have one called slow shutter, and the other is obviously called fast shutter. And then it's dot, or I guess period, and then the appropriate suffix that comes after that. So since we're online, the critiques are obviously going to work a little bit different. We do have a full week to do those. Typically, for my on-campus sessions, what we do is we meet in class for 2 hours and we break off into small groups, and then we reconvene as a larger group and take a look at the images. Again, it's going to work a little bit different since we're meeting online. Majority of online students are working professionals. I understand you guys all hold different sorts of schedules professionally and personally, so that's taken into, into thought as well. So I have you guys currently broken off into small groups. If you open up the attached document called Online Group Designations, I'm just going to go ahead and open this up. There we go. We see that here we have group 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. To make it easy on myself, you can see that they go alphabetically by last name. So those are the group numbers, and then currently, again, since we have an exactly even class, there are 5 members per group. So if you've already started reading the information that's on the D2L news section, you see that, for example, group 1 is going to be critiquing group 2's work. You can go ahead and see the people that are listed in group 2. Out in the news section, it designates the fact that you'll be utilizing the discussion forum if you choose not to use another area for that group discussion. So if I click out into here and scroll past the initial camera equipment questionnaire, we get down to the project shutter speed photo critique discussion area. It's separated into groups, and then it tells you, again, which groups projects you're going to be going through and critiquing. There is one group out there that has already started to convene and talk about when they could possibly meet, and that's virtually, whether it's using Skype, WhatsApp app, FaceTime. If you are able to do that, that's wonderful. If you are not, this space within D2L should be utilized as well. So I'm going to hop back out here now that we see exactly where that's located, go back to the course home, scroll down, and I'm going to pull up the online critique form. Let's pop up. All right, so taking a look through here, you're going to be discussing these projects based on a couple of headlines. We're looking at understanding, content. I think these are relatively related. Effectiveness, expression, inventiveness and commitment, as well as technique and craftsmanship on how it was shot. So these are the topics that you're going to be talking about. If you feel strongly about one image in one particular area of this, definitely make sure that you speak on that. Once you've gone through, again, make sure you read through this thoroughly so you know what you're going to be answering. We use a very similar form throughout the course of the semester. Down at the bottom, there's specialized instructions. What happens afterwards. So once you've gone through and completed a critique for one person's work, again, we're going to be looking at two final photos, 4 total files for each of these. You would be going and posting a completed comment out onto the Widen Collective website. So ask the person, and on this one, it's the first person listed in the group. So if I hop back into, I'm going to go back into the group section on the group designations. I'll download that again quick. There we go. So on this particular one, because it is the first project, the person that is listed in slot number 1 will be the designated person that is going to be posting the comments onto Widen for this project. We have 10 total projects, so as this goes through, the person that needs to be completing the posting will rotate. So every person in the class will have this responsibility twice over the course of the semester. Again, it will be a full group critique for the 5 individual projects, and then one person will be completing the upload of the summary of those critiques onto the Widen public comment area. Let me show you where that is located. So if we hop back out to here, I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to click into Widen. I'm obviously already signed in, and let's just say, let's just pull up. So this is a student from one of my on-campus sessions. If I went into, and again, you're able to post, I'd suggest posting in the completed file. So we're looking at Shawnee's Photoshop file. Clicking on that right now. You see that there's the detail section, IPTC, EXIF data, history, and comments. In this area right here in asset comments, you're going to go ahead and create a public comment. This is where you're going to be putting a summarized, if you see that there is a 1,000 character limit, a summarized critique of, I guess, group thought when it comes to this project. Close that out. And then in case you've forgotten since the last time we looked at it, as we're going through and we're discussing how these projects were completed, you do need to access the metadata that was used. So the objective of this project was to complete a fast and slow shutter speed image. It didn't have to be the exact same content. You certainly could, but it encouraged to kind of diversify that up a little bit. So the first and foremost setting that we're looking at and how it was completed is the exposure time. It is also listed in here as shutter speed. Again, if you look at this field on the left, you see that they are alphabetical. Some of the things are going to be duplicated throughout this website. So exposure time is listed right up at the top since it starts with an E, and then shutter speed should also be down at the bottom if we're looking through here. So we can see that again, exposure time is your shutter speed. The modes, it was shot on manual. If it was an automatic mode, it would likely say auto, and let's say hypothetically she shot this on sports action photography, which is that little running man on the top dial. That's what is likely would appear in the exposure program. Scroll down a little bit further, we can see that her f number is 5.6, the aperture is set to 5.6, and then the ISO is listed down here at the bottom. So as you're going through and critiquing, you know, aesthetics are just as important as the tactical settings for these projects. So exposure time, we're looking at 1 over 250th. Again, this is set as her fast shutter speed image. I think it, you know, if we're looking at this, it may be arguably a little bit dark. So if that is your group thought on how this was completed, because again, we're looking at a Photoshop file, you could argue, you know, suggested, you know, since the shutter speed was set at 1 over 250, and that seems successful in freezing these bubbles, I guess, frozen in motion, then if at all possible, to set it to a lower f number, allowing for more light, allowing for a little bit better exposure. Those are the types of arguments that you're going to want to be making for the critique process starting now and on through the semester. What I'd also encourage you to do is have a print off or at least reference this cheat sheet that was posted the first week of class. I think this will also be really important to making accurate references to what could have changed. So if we're looking at then, again, the visual representation of the exposure triangle is listed right here. So we see how these all come into play. Again, Shawnee's just shot as 1 over 250th of a second. And then we have her aperture was, again, 5.6. We'd likely wanted to open it up a little bit more. So make sure you're utilizing the information that is on this sheet. On the flip side, if you have it printed off back to back, you see that there's also a reference to the rule of thirds, the composition basic. I think that's also important to look at as well as we're going through and we are strongly critiquing these images. Listed below are the design principles. If you can find that one of those adheres to the images that you're critiquing, nice little topic to slide in there, and a preview of what we're going to be discussing and doing as part of an activity next week. Additional items that can affect the narrative of imagery and things that if you find that these are evident in the photos that you're critiquing, make sure to touch on those. I think it's helpful. Again, if the author of the work uses line throughout the image, interesting topic to start touching on, as well as if they tried out different vantage points or if they should have tried a different vantage point, also important as well. Again, as you're sitting at your desk or wherever, kitchen table at home, pull this sheet out or have it up on your desktop as a reference to look back on for the critique process. And the process for critiquing as we're going through there, again, you've been assigned 5 different individuals' works. We'll be going through here and I would search, if you go ahead and search someone's last name, if I type in the word Shutter, I'm going to see a lot of submissions over the last couple days that have been uploaded. These are not named correctly, for example, and you ask why. If we're looking at these right now, there is no first or last name indicator on here. So if this is someone's in the online class, if I click in here, make sure you get your name attached to those as well. Again, your name, the first and last name is a unique identifier in this naming system. So last name, first name, underscore, shutter speed, if it's fast shutter or slow shutter as we're looking through here. I also encourage you, if you haven't been out here on the website a whole lot, take a look at it. There is a lot of nice examples. You can see, let's say slow no edit. These are not named correctly out here if we're looking through here, but make sure you're naming your files according to the project document. Last name, first name, doesn't have to be a space in between them, underscore, slow shutter, the other one's underscore, fast shutter. So if we're scrolling through here. But again, use this to your advantage. The fact that you can see everyone else's work, I think it's really interesting. Some of the stuff is well executed, some of the stuff not as well executed, but also I think it's a nice resource. And don't forget, if we click into here, you're also commenting whether or not you want to verify that this was shot on manual as we're going through, because that's the first thing to indicating that is a valid submission for the course, as well, of course, the create date and when it was shot. All right, I think that more or less concludes what we have for the online sections. Again, my on-campus students, we have our critiques and we were able to sit down and complete them in one day, but it's a solid block of 2 hours. I think that is a logical amount of time that as a group it'll take you to put together as well to complete these critiquing projects. And the first person in that group, again, you're listed 1 through 5, your assignment, and that'll be, again, for next week, because this would technically start this coming Monday. Monday through Friday as a group, convene, talk about the works that you've been assigned, and then that number 1 person on the list, the request from the group is that you have, or the request of the group is the group should finish their discussion within that 5-day block. That gives that person that's at the number 1 spot 2 days to have their stuff posted out into the summary section. As always, if any issues come up or if you have any questions about how this process will be working, please feel free to email me, or if you're ever so inclined to call me or shoot me a text message, just identify yourself first. Let me know what section as well. I'm typically accessible at most times a day. Hours 8 through 8 with the exception of the weekends, but like I said, I try and be available. If I'm online, I will shoot you a response. If you haven't yet, make sure you view the depth of field information for the upcoming project for next week, and as well as next week we'll also be running an exercise for the Principles of Design project, and you'll see a posting with information about that on Monday. So have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.